Welcome back to my channel, Star Booze.
The autopsy report of Ted Cassidy showed a few depressing facts. The birth of Ted Cassidy on July 31st, Theodore Crawford Cassidy, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in 1932. At 6 feet 9 inches, Cassidy's remarkable height was ascribed to acromegaly, a disorder brought on by too much growth hormone. As this provided him with a dominant physical presence, it frequently gave him enormous parts. Cassidy disregarded the rules that Hollywood frequently cast actors with odd looks. He had an exceptional intelligence, depth of artistic expression, with a baritone voice with a rich resonance that became one of his most recognizable instruments. Cassidy was a person with several talents, not just a performer, but also a talented writer, pianist, and voice actor. His abilities went well beyond what on screen. In 1964, Cassidy's breakthrough performance occurred when he was chosen to play the lugubrious Lurch, but charming butler for the Addamses. Despite the fact that the persona initially had no Cassidy's impromptu, slow-spoken lines, Urang's thunderous answer turned into a signature slogan, and influenced Lurch becomes a favorite among fans. His humorous timing, along with a present for physical display, brought about unexpected compassion and nuance to a position that may have easily turned into one-dimensional. Because of Cassidy's performance, Lurch became more than only a supporting role. He rose to fame as a cultural figure. Beyond the Cassidy worked consistently in the Addams Family's television and films, frequently showing up in creations of fantasy and science fiction where he might use his voice and height to considerable impact. He had a memorable visitor. Parts. In television series such as Star Trek as the Gorn captain's voice, I Dream of the Only Guy, Genie, and then The Incredible Hulk, he described the opening scene and supplied the voice acting for the growls of the Hulk in the early episodes. Additionally, Cassidy provided his voice to a variety of animated shows and advertisements that highlight his vocal adaptability. He was especially skilled at modulating voice, and his work is often mentioned as an antecedent to contemporary voice acting in television genres. In spite of his rather intimidating appearance off-screen, Cassidy was renowned for being intelligent, gentle, and compassionate. He was captivated in history and literature, and he studied at the college level even as keeping up his acting career. Cassidy received her diploma from Trinity, Texas University, where he was exceptional in the classroom and at a university basketball player, while creating a solid basis for the performance artistic. From the 1960s to the 1970s, Ted Cassidy is well recognized for his tall size and a distinctively rich voice, had a lasting impression on Americans' television by adopting a range of vibrant and frequently unforgettable supporting positions. He made an appearance in 1967 in a particularly noteworthy Beverly the Dahlia Feud, a hillbillies song, where he portrayed a gigantic Browie named Mr. Ted, recruited a gardener by the snooty Mrs. to plant her beloved Dahlia D. Dale. With his commanding physical presence and deadpan speech, Cassidy changed what might have been a little part of a scene-stealing moment that was flawless combined physical humor with incisive timing, incorporating further humor into the enormously successful sitcom. The next year, Cassidy's adaptability as a character actor was completely focused on show. He made an appearance in The Manx, who is playing the part of the character Felipe Montoya in the To Kill episode, an author. His act gave the mystery, adding to the program's tension with his powerful display presence. In the same year, he assumed the Gentle Sam's job as a pirate with ironically gentle name, yet a tough character in the episode of Daniel Boone, The Ivory Scrimshaw Chart. Cassidy's depiction of the mysterious pirate further shown his aptitude for adding charm and depth to event the most peculiar characteristics. Cassidy additionally shown his comic timing and flair for the classic sitcom's fantasy. He performed 2 roles in I Dream of Genie, different characters in different episodes. in the creative and chaotic episode Who's Got the Genie? Genie. He seems to be the head of Genie's naughty sister, who plays the position with both power and whimsical allure. He went back to Theseries in a different capacity. Please, this time, avoid feeding the astronauts since Gene's cousin is still bringing vitality and uncertainty to the NASA and the fanciful realm of Genie's astronauts. The contributions of Ted Cassidy expanded into the field of science fiction as well. He assumed the role in 1976, a memorable and physically taxing role in the two-part Bigfoot episode of The Return of the $6 Million Man Bigfoot. Initially depicted by Andre the Giant, professional wrestler, Bigfoot started to appear frequently as an enemy. In the Bionic universe, Dart's ally and Cassidy's analysis, together with both mystery and threat, was introduced to life not just by his commanding presence, in addition to his guttural vocalizations as well as subtle body language. Cassidy played this well-known part again in the Bigfoot 5, a 1977 follow-up episode, confirming his position in one of the most well-liked and strange series narratives. Along with his sitcom and sci-fi, Cassidy left a lasting effect at work on viewers of Western television. In 1970, he made an appearance in one of the most cherished and most established Westerns in history of television. His part in the decision in Los Robles, an episode, once more demonstrated his capacity to adapt to many genres with ease, adding mystery and gravity to amorally convoluted plot against the Old West's untamed landscape. In addition to his enduring presence, Ted Cassidy additionally constructed a varied and intriguing career in movies during the late 1960s and early 1970s, demonstrating his adaptability and distinctive screen presence in a variety of genres. Among his most enduring, his part in film appearances was Butch Cassidy, the famous Western, and the 1969's Sundance Kid movie that is now considered a masterpiece of American motion pictures. In the same year, he made Alone the Way He Commanded, McKenna's Gold, 1969, an intense Western adventure that's full of with hazardous landscapes and buried treasure. Cassidy kept working on films into the early 1970s, showing up in 1972's The Limit. Then came the mystery on TV, Banachek's 1972 series, in which he contributed to the blend of humor throughout the show and tension. Additionally, he had an appearance in Black Charcoal, 1972, a lesser-known but intriguing addition to his body of work that enabled him to extend his acting abilities in more challenging substance. In 1973, he was involved in The Slams, a grim prison drama bringing an unadulterated energy to thestory with lots of action. As the decade developed, Cassidy continued to be involved in movie. In 1974, in Thunder County, he gave life to yet another unique personality amid a rural criminal scene. He participated in the unconventional thriller Poor Pretty Eddie, 1975, a cult favorite that combined horror and exploitation and drama in a thought-provoking blend. Cassidy displayed his sense of humor. When Walter and Harry traveled to New York, 76, a historical comedy with lots of robberies and pranks, and he went on to say momentum following the most recent Bojest remake, 1977, a parody of the classic stories of adventure. One of his last films, the musical comedy, featured appearances. Goin' Coconuts, 1978, in which he took part among the oddball, family-friendly activities of Marie Osmond and Donnie. However, Cassidy's acting was not the only artistic endeavor. He collaborated with a scriptwriter in 1973. Werner Michael will co-write the Herod Experiments screenplay, a movie that looked at young people's idealism and sexual liberty in a forward-thinking university environment. Cassidy even made a fleeting appearance, putting his own imprint on the film to an already audacious project and before its time. In this time frame, additionally, he worked with executive producer Number Marshall, who was also employed regarding the Herod Experiment. on the film that is both ambitious and notoriously chaotic. The adventure comedy Roar is focused on near tigers and lions. Even so, Roar was not made available until 1981, 2 years later. Following Cassidy's passing, his participation in the movie captured his unwavering passion for narrating and his readiness to see to difficult, unusual initiatives. Cassidy's inventiveness wasn't limited to television and films. In 1965, he entered the music industry, putting out a unique single by Capitol Records that were flawlessly recorded, the eerie, surreal charm he brought to his most famous parts. As an aside, the Lurch was a peculiar, Dable Gary S. Paxton wrote a song that made light-hearted allusions to his persona from the Addams household. Wesley on the B-side was written by Scott Turner and Cliffy Stone and added more to complete the single Taste of Music. Cassidy did more than just sing the Lurch, but, moreover, presented the it was accompanied by a humorous dance. He gave origin to the routine on the Chivery, a television variety show on September 11, 1965, captivating crowds with his imposing lifeless pan-emotion and frame. He performed the same song a few weeks later, afterwards a special Halloween appearance of Shindig, solidifying the song's enchantingly eerie persona into pop history of culture. When combined, these various Ted's artistic pursuits show that Cassidy was much more than just a fictional person. Performer. He has several talents: performer, author, and inspiration, whose works in television, movies, and music still captivate and delight admirers decades after his moving on. Ted Cassidy wed Margaret Ayes of June 14, 1956. Helen Jesse. An important thing happened soon after he received his degree from university. Cassidy at the time was a youthful man with big dreams, not only with regard to his nascent career in entertainment and radio, but especially in his private life, since he anticipated establishing a future for himself and his new bride. Mutual support was a defining feature of their partnership and common aspirations, especially as Cassidy started to move through the broadcasting industry and ultimately performing. Margaret is frequently referred to as knowledgeable and sympathetic, offering a stabilizing influence on Ted's life, particularly in those early unsure years as he left his job in radio in Dallas for films and TV. After a year of marriage, Ted, and when Margaret gave birth to their first child, Asha is a 1957-born son. The impact of being a father was significant on Cassidy, who, in spite of his formidable height and booming, deep voice, was known for being kind and polite in private. Life, be mindful. He was quite proud of his function as a parent, frequently putting aside time away from his progressively demanding work to spend more time with his family. 3 years eventually, in 1960, the pair welcomed their daughter, their second child, named Cameron. It was reported that Ted was ecstatic by the growth of his friends and family. His co-workers observed that he frequently spoke lovingly of his offspring. However, he was preoccupied with his work in Hollywood, particularly when he was playing. Focusing on the Addams household, he continued to devote it to parenthood and discovered methods to maintain contact with his kids. Both Cameron and Sean would later chart prosperous routes of their own, ultimately becoming lawyers, evidence of both their intelligence and perseverance, but possibly also to the principles taught to them by their parents. Cassidy, in spite of the expanding the demands of entertainment and celebrity industry, gave a lot of importance to discipline and education, and it's obvious that these goals had a long-term impact on his kids. Today, Sean and Cameron are not just successful experts in the legal domain, but additionally continue their father's heritage with modest dignity and pride, frequently deciding to stay hidden from the public spotlight. But the demands of celebrity, a lot of labor, and personal Ted unavoidably suffered as a result of difficulties. The marriage of Cassidy. As his profession developed and his pledges in films and television became more complex, occasionally requiring prolonged absence from home, the stress on his marriage to Margaret became more noticeable. After many years together, Ted and Margaret separated in 1975. The split signaled the conclusion of an important period in Cassidy's life, ending a time that had included his ascent to fame, the expansion of his family, as well as some of his most famous performances. Even after the split, he continued to be a loving father and persisted in maintaining connections with his kids. Ted, according to Cassidy's autopsy report, a number of grave and extremely depressing information that gave a moving depth to the tale of his premature demise. Recognized millions of people as the tall, deep-voiced actor who played legendary parts, like Lurch, Cassidy was admired by the Addams Family, not only for his distinct physical, both his voice and appearance, but also for his talent, wit, and a calm personality battles. He passed away on January 16, 1979, and it was unexpected at barely 46 years old to both his co-workers and his admirers, and, according to the official autopsy report, improved understanding of the situation that resulted in his untimely death. Cassidy has had open heart surgery in order to eliminate a benign growth that had developed around his heart, a disease pertaining to issues from an uncommon acromegaly is a congenital disorder. This hormonal condition, which results in aberrant growth brought on by an excessive growth hormone synthesis, having profoundly influenced his life, providing he is tall, 6'9", and has a deep voice and lengthy features of the face, but also causing major health issues over time. Even though his physical characteristics had played a part in his Hollywood success, they also had an ongoing, underlying conflict with the pressure that his illness put on his body. Stress had been placed on his heart for years, and the purpose of the procedure was to provide a new opportunity for health. But, according to the autopsy report, surgical problems turned into excessively harsh for Cassidy's already fragile body to manage. While recuperating, he experienced unanticipated organ failure, and despite the greatest efforts of the medical staff, his health quickly deteriorated. According to the article, Cassidy passed away from issues brought on by the elimination of thymus encircling his heart. Although the tumor was benign, the injury from the physiological stress and surgery, his underlying illness made a significant contribution to the flow of health problems that finally resulted in his demise. Apart from the medical results, the autopsy demonstrated how Cassidy's illness has subtly affected his standard of living for a long time. Despite his few public remarks about his health issues, close companions and family subsequently remarked that he frequently felt worn out, had joint discomfort, and burden on his heart that he stoically persevered to keep a strong, polished appearance. His imposing physique, formerly regarded as his strongest suit in television and films, were actually the due to an illness that reduced his life and restricted his health in the back of the scenes. The heartbreaking specifics of Cassidy's. The autopsy report provided not only clarifications, but also a feeling of satisfaction for individuals who admired him. It depicted a more detailed image of a man who became famous via performances that will never be forgotten, but who too bore unseen weights that ultimately proved to be too much. In looking back, the report is a sobering reminder of the frailty of people behind stardom and the significant ways that even the tallest people can be lowered by the silent toll of illness.